Right, good afternoon, everyone. Oh dear, I know it's after lunch, but good afternoon, everyone. That's more like it. So, as Walter introduced me, I'm Phil Kane, Delivery Operations Manager for Sainsbury's Online, and I'm here to talk to you this afternoon around the last mile and how my role and my team's role within Sainsbury's enables us to deliver great service to our customers whilst optimising the delivery operation itself. So a little bit about me. I've been at Sainsbury's 10 years, spent a couple of years in logistics, moved across to online about 8 years ago, and have stayed there ever since. Our delivery operation itself, effectively what we mean by delivery operation is everything that happens with your groceries. I'm sure many of you will shop online with Sainsbury's, from the store out to the customer and back again. In terms of context, so the size of our operation, about 2,250 vans. We operate out of 240 locations with a driver workforce of about 6,500 individuals. So in terms of what matters to our customers, so there are four key things when we talk to our customers that are really important to them. So first and foremost, there's a piece around convenience. So the whole online marketplace, really, for groceries, it's about shop online, save time, being able to get your groceries whenever, wherever, and however you want those groceries. And you'll have seen from some of the other sessions today, and those of you who read around the industry, the myriad of different ways of servicing online customers that have come into being over the last few years. So click and collect, same day, and there's a lot of talk around slot availability and the ability for us to provide the capacity for our customers. So the second thing they're looking for is range and availability of that range. So again, customers tell us, I order a basket of products from you, I expect you to deliver those products to me, all of them, and to deliver those on time and in full. So really, we started to look at our online stores as almost mini warehouses. So obviously, in all 240 sites, we'll open the front doors to customers throughout the day. But actually, from an online perspective, we'll treat those sites as warehouses where we're able to fulfill customers through that final mile on an online basis. The third one, which really comes into play from a final mile perspective for me and the team, is service. So our customers expect great service on the doorstep. They expect that service to be personalised and that we're able to deliver the right type of experience for that individual customer. And finally, again, I'm sure those of you who shop online will have in mind there's an element around freshness. So as a grocery online shopper, you're trusting people in store, people at Sainsbury's, to pick you the freshest possible produce and select products that actually there's a relatively high emotional buy-in to. So those of you who will be going into supermarkets will be typically looking at the produce, weighing up whether that is great quality, and the same with the meat, fish and poultry, looking at those products on the shelf and selecting the ones that suit you. So there's an element of trust there. So what really matters to me as a light commercial fleet manager within the last mile fulfillment arena? Well, there's a number of things. First and foremost, as all of you would expect, I'm sure, safety is the top priority for us. So it's absolutely critical that we run a safe operation and that operation complies with the legal requirements. A real stretch for us as Sainsbury's has been trying to go beyond the legal requirements as well. So again, those of you familiar with the LCV marketplace will know that it's less regulated than the HGV arena. However, the FTA have done a great job of trying to provide self-governance around that through the Van Excellence scheme, and we're heavily bought into that. The challenge though around safety really for us is that it's in an incredibly complex environment. So we've got 240 individual sites, each of those sites effectively running a small fleet operation, and those 2,250 vans stretched across the whole of the UK. The second one for us is this happy chappy on the right, not one of ours, but this is how all of us, I'm sure, would want to see our drivers. So, do we have an engaged and happy driver workforce giving us the thumbs up, and our customers the thumbs up as they pull up at the doorstep? And we can measure that in a number of ways. So we look very closely at retention. So do our drivers stay with us? and the levels of engagement that we get through our colleague engagement questionnaires. And the wider context for that really is around the labour market. So again, those of you who are operating fleets within the light commercial marketplace and even the HGV marketplace, I'm sure will appreciate that getting drivers and keeping them is really tough, or can be really tough when it comes to operating fleets. So there's a lot of time spent looking at how we can ensure we do that. There's a piece around fleet specification that would matter to me. So in a perfect world, the van on the left-hand side down here would still be running for me now, at kind of 30, 40 plus years later. But in reality, it's about us trying to select the right van that's right for our drivers and that's right for our operation, and also demonstrates the level of reliability that we'd expect, so we can pass that reliability on to the service that we give our customers. Alongside those things, we will consider the whole life costs of the fleet and the operation. So it's not always necessarily the cheapest van we can buy. It's the van that will cost us and deliver most value across its full life with us as a business. And finally, there's absolutely a piece around efficiency. So how do we ensure that we're able to run an efficient fleet and an efficient operation, and that we're able to utilise our assets in the most effective way? And naturally, that's around trying to find that sweet spot where we balance that with customer expectations. So actually, how much capacity do we provide? How much flexibility do we provide versus the level of fleet we need to operate? So what is delivery operations? So I'm the delivery operations manager over at Sainsbury's. And part of how we deliver the alignment between our fleet operation and the customer service aspect comes through the way that we structure that final mile for us as a business. So our delivery operation encompasses, as I said earlier, everything that happens once that shopping's been picked out to the customer, what happens on the doorstep, and then getting those drivers safely back to base at the end of their shifts. So as you can see from the pictures up here, we look after all of the fleet development, the fleet design, its specification, the sourcing of that fleet, and the overall strategy around how we develop that fleet. Once it lands with us, so we have a factory over in Peterborough that puts our vans together. So once they roll off the production line and land with us, we then are responsible for the repairs and maintenance, dealing with any road traffic collisions that occur, all of the safe and legal aspects of the operation, and naturally the operating costs and the commercials around running that fleet. More recently, what we've coupled up, though, which is where we've really started to be able to optimise, is all of the driver training and the management of the experience on the doorstep. So from a driver training perspective, it's down to us to ensure that our drivers are equipped to succeed, both technically and from a service perspective, so when they arrive on the doorstep, they're doing the right thing for our customers. And finally, in the bottom left there, yeah, it is the bottom left. It's all about the service we provide on the doorstep. So we're actually also accountable for defining that service and understanding, working with our customer experience teams, what our customers are looking for and how we ensure that that flows right the way through our operation and ultimately lands on the doorstep with our customer. So there really is a benefit to us around combining the ability to define, scope and deliver the right tools for our drivers, train them in the right way, both technically and from a service perspective, ensure that we get the right people and the right culture to enable us to deliver great service on the doorstep. So what I'd like to do now is just spend a little bit of time walking through a couple of almost worked examples around how we've put this structure to good use. So the first question there, it really is around how our fleet operation is able to influence customer service. And some of this is relatively obvious stuff, but before we started joining all the dots with this, actually some of these work streams will be taking place in totally different silos, and some of the other people that I work with in the industry, it still takes place in different silos, and you can end up with fairly mixed results when it comes to ensuring that we're joining all the dots. So from a vehicle specification perspective, I've said that we're responsible for the spec that we deliver to our customers, the drivers. Just tying that back to what our customers are looking for. So convenience is one of the points that I picked up on my first slide. So The way we'll look at that is ensuring, for instance, that we're delivering the right payload when it comes to the vehicle fleet, so we can deliver that slot availability and optimize the fleet at the same time. From a freshness perspective, we've looked at how do we control the chill chain to ensure that when the product arrives with customers, it's in a great condition, both from the product that needs to be held in a chilled environment and also the product that needs to be held in a frozen environment. But on the flip side of that, actually there are certain things that we deliver that we wouldn't want to chill because it can lessen the lifespan of those products. So from an ambient perspective, how we deal with that as well. And reliability. The badge that we buy, we run a Mercedes-Benz fleet. The reality is that often or not those vehicles can be more expensive up front, but over the whole life cost for us and our operation, it makes sense to run that badge. We look at the whole reliability element as a key part of our whole life cost or total cost of ownership. And we keep in mind that every breakdown that we have on the fleet, there's a risk that we're impacting up to 27 customers when we have that breakdown. So it's a really important point to keep in mind. And finally, from a service perspective, there's a fairly simple adage from my perspective that I tend to live by, and that's a happy driver will hopefully deliver great customer service on the doorstep. So what we look at is how do we spec our online vehicles to ensure that the drivers have the easiest possible time of it delivering, so when they get to the doorstep, they've had a relatively stress-free journey, with the exception of those driving in London, to deliver that great service. And there's, to pick a couple of examples, there's a couple of ways we've done this. So our entire fleet has a fully automatic gearbox. And really that came back from the challenge from drivers that up and down on the clutch, in and out of traffic, when they're doing a large amount of manoeuvring, it's a multi-drop vehicle, was quite difficult for them to do on their clutch leg and clutch foot. So let's take that away, take that stress away and give them a more appropriate specification. And if we look at satellite navigation as well, we're still in the process of really trying to get sat-nav right. So if there are any sat-nav providers out there, by all means, form a queue at the end of the lectern here after this. But we're looking at that because that's something drivers tell us. Finding customers can be really difficult. And when you're under time pressure, we need to be able to ensure that we're giving the drivers great tools. So that's an ongoing process. But we've made some really big steps forward in ensuring that drivers can download their routes at the touch of a single button, and that route will then automatically take them to a grid reference rather than a postcode, so we can be a little bit more precise for them. So from a spec perspective, just turning that on its head and now aligning it with what matters to us as a fleet operation. And the same applies really. So from a payload perspective, it's important to our customers who are providing capacity. It's important to me and the team because it enables us to provide a really optimum fleet and an effective fleet where we can put a larger number of drops on a single van and actually run fewer vans. And that does things like it helps us to cut down on stem mileage, for instance. So by improving the payload of our fleet, we've been able to make some significant cuts in stem mileage, which is both beneficial from an environmental perspective because we're not wasting as much fuel traveling to and from the start points, but also from a commercial perspective. From a chiller, so we touched on the fact that the chill chain is really important and the whole freshness and quality of products is really important. Actually, from my perspective, we have developed something we've nicknamed the bulletproof fridge. So my task to the guys who are responsible for the fleet spec within my team was, how do you find us a fridge that's really, really reliable? Because when it breaks down, we're calling the van back, we're very probably repicking all of those customers' orders if it falls outside of the chill chain. So how do we build a fridge that's super reliable, does what it says on the tin, and is actually relatively cost-effective for us? And they've gone away and they've developed a great solution. So it runs directly from the battery, it's 12 volts, it provides us the chill capacity we need, and we very rarely see vehicles off the road now because of a fridge spec. So that's great for the customer and also great for me. Reliability. So by standardizing our fleet and ensuring that we've got a really strong service and maintenance network supporting that fleet, we've been able to reduce our VOR, or vehicle off-road measure, significantly. Again, that's great news for me as a fleet manager because we can reduce the overall size of the fleet. And coming back to the customer point, it's great news for customers because we're giving far fewer phone calls to customers to say, we're really sorry, we're going to deliver late, or we can't deliver today because our van has broken down. And then coming back to the happy driver element, so speccing a fleet and giving them the right tools has a measurable impact on our retention. So drivers are telling us that actually, whilst there's more we can do, some of the tools we're giving them are ticking the box, and that they're pleased that we're giving them the vans we do to allow them to get out on the roads and do a great job for our customers. And finally, the sourcing perspective. So having overall control of the sourcing as well as the specification means that we're able to go out and select a spec that works for us as an operation, but also works commercially for the business. So we can go out there and look at the balance between things like residual values, the lease rate that we pay, but also the reliability and how that product's going to be used in the environment that we know better than potentially a procurement team who aren't necessarily the experts. So in terms of the operation itself, and how we're able to influence that as a team. From a safety perspective, I mean, safety is a reward in itself, in my view. But having that overall control of the end-to-end process enables us to define all of the processes that we work to, and also select to work really closely with people like the Freight Transport Association and benchmarked ourselves against their Van Excellence accreditation to ensure that we're doing the right things when it comes to operating the fleet on the road. And aligned with that, we're able to work closely with our stores and with our training providers to help reduce accidents. And again, naturally, the impact that all of that will have on the customers, but also on our fleets and drivers. And it's a great news message from a brand perception perspective. So we certainly don't want to be out there seen as somebody who's running a dangerous fleet, and we want to do everything we can to ensure that that fleet is operating in the right way. And then from a service and maintenance perspective, again, control over this has a real impact on our customers. So we're able to set the SLAs that our fleet is repaired and maintained to with our customers in mind. So we're able to proactively say, let's service our vehicles outside of the operating hours. Again, it helps me because it cuts down on the level of fleet that I need to carry. But also, it helps our customers because those vans are on the road when we need them rather than being off the road because they're in for service. And we're able to select suppliers who are able to provide a 24-hour service network and support network for us. And finally, really we're able to build those relationships with our supplier network. So for instance, the people who provide our repairs and maintenance are regularly in our stores with the people operating our vans, out with drivers, talking to customers. So actually when it comes to the whole cultural aspect and ensuring that we're aligned and our suppliers aligned with the overall vision of our business and what we're trying to deliver, those suppliers have got a really clear view of what we're doing on the doorstep, how the assets that they're managing are being used, so they can come up with great ideas and support us in delivering that better service to our customers. So just another worked example, really. So as I said, we're accountable for the driver process and the driver training across the Sainsbury's online operation. And that level of accountability really allows us to define the training we give our drivers end to end. So we're able to understand the strategy and the values for the business overall, from an online operation perspective and a wider business perspective. And we can build that into the training that we give our drivers. And that means that we're able to balance both the technical training we need to provide our drivers to ensure that they're able to deliver in a safe and legal manner and follow the processes we require them to follow. And also we're able to provide service and customer service and on-the-doorstep training in a joined-up way, so actually it feels like the entire service offering is from Sainsbury's Online rather than going for your driver training and then your customer training. And that links very closely with the engagement then that we're able to give our drivers. So we're able to ensure that all of the key messages, not just the toolbox talk style, we're changing the process or we're changing the operation, but actually some of the key customer service messages are able to reach our drivers. So we've done a lot of work around listening to our drivers, providing the right methods to engage those drivers because they're a tough population to access at times. You know, they come into the store, they're out on the road most of the day, they're dropping their van back and then potentially finishing their shifts. So we're able to engage them in the right way, but also ensure that alongside a lot of the fleet-related messages, we can build customer-related messages in. So if we're changing our service proposition or we're wanting to focus on certain things for customers, we can deliver those messages. And we can take the feedback that the drivers are hearing on the doorstep that's fed back to us, and we're able to really quickly and effectively build that back into our processes and change the way we approach things if we need to. And finally, from a doorstep perspective, so we've had a lot of focus on this over the last year. Our customers have told us that your drivers are best in class, they do a great job, but at times the process can feel a little bit robotic. So we've gone back to the drawing board, and the structure of the team and the level of the remit that we have, the great news is we can do that, to look at how do we provide the customer with the service they want on the doorstep. So we now have a much shorter process, much simpler process for drivers, where those drivers are empowered to adapt their service as they need to suit those customers' needs. And that could be as simple as providing extra support to a customer who clearly needs it versus a customer who quite obviously just wants their shopping dropping off and is happy for that to be the end of the interaction, actually providing that service in the way that that customer wants that. So in summary, really, the piece of me around how I measured and how we know whether we're getting it right can be divided pretty simply down into three categories. So from a fleet perspective, we're sourcing the right vans at the right time. So that allows us to deliver the right spec to our drivers. And also, from an optimization perspective, we're running the number of vans we need in the way we need them at the right time. From a driver perspective, that we have safe drivers who are out there on the road delivering in a safe and legal manner, and also that they're happy and that they're engaged in their job. And finally, from a service perspective, by doing the first 2 points, we're able to deliver a reliable service to our customers that ultimately enhances the brand that we are representing. Because for many of our customers, if they solely shop online, the driver could be the only point of interaction that they have with our business on a face-to-face basis. So that's pretty much it from me. Thank you all very much for your attention. I don't know how I'm doing for time. I'm very slightly ahead of time, so I'll be down here at the front if anybody wants to pick up on a one-to-one basis with me. But I believe now you guys are off to another break, so hopefully it's been fairly engaging, and thank you for your attention.